Hey, so if you're like me, you're probably brand new to making a podcast and probably have no clue where to start and probably don't have the equipment to do so. But let me tell you something. There is an app that will allow you to create your podcast and actually give you the tools that you need to make it. It's called Anchor. It's free to use and you can download it right to your phone or your computer. And Anchor will also help you distribute your podcast so it can be heard on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it has everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you're looking to use your voice to speak to something that you are passionate about or something that makes your heart sing, download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And you can download Anchor from wherever apps are sold. Hey, this is Stephanie Hardy, and this is the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. So you're probably wondering, who is this random girl with this random podcast that just came out of nowhere? Well, in this episode, I'm going to tell you who I am, what my journey is with professional wrestling, why I got into it, and basically what I feel about what's going on in the wrestling landscape here in this month of February in the year 2020. New decade, y'all. So, a lot has happened. But, yeah, I'm just going to discuss it. So, my name is Stephanie Hardy. I'm 26 years old, and I'm from Birmingham, Alabama. I have been watching wrestling since I was 4 years old. I started with my dad. He and I would watch wrestling together, sitting on the floor and at my grandma's house and at our house. And WCW was the first piece of wrestling I saw, and I saw their first match was Goldberg versus Hulk Hogan for the World Heavyweight title. And the way my dad explains it, he says that I walked in and I asked him, I was like, Dad, who's the guy with the hair? And he said, that's Hulk Hogan. And I said, Dad, who's the bald guy? And he said, that's Goldberg. And I said, oh. And I basically sat there and watched it ever since. So, along with me, watching cartoons and all the other stuff that kids, normally watch, wrestling was just a part of my life. My dad would tape WCW and WWE, or WWF at the time, back to back. And because this was the height of the Monday Night Wars. So, he would tape them back to back and I would watch them with them all the time. So, I've been watching wrestling ever since, and it has been, the older I've gotten, the more I realize, it's given me a safe place to sort of, yell and everything, because for those who know me, sometimes I'm a quiet person, but then other times I'm really loud, and I can't really be as loud in certain spaces, with work and sometimes with school at the time in which I was there. So in terms of watching wrestling, it gave me a place to yell and, scream at people to beat up a person I might not necessarily like, or, watching, feats of athleticism, and just hearing people share their opinions and talk with commentators and promos and all of that. Like, it's a pretty amazing spectacle. And I'm just so happy to have been involved with it for as long as I have, because it's given me lots of joy. I've met some wrestlers, the older I've gotten. Wrestling has helped me make friends. It's also brought me the love of my life. So it's given me a lot of great things in my life. So I'm really grateful for it. So now I'm about to go into how I've basically feel about what's been going on in these past few weeks of everything that's been going on in wrestling. And I'm going to start with the Royal Rumble. So with the Royal Rumble, I was very excited with everything that happened with the 2 Royal Rumble matches, of course, and everything that happened within that pay-per-view. I found it kind of hard to try to get into the Royal Rumble given the events of what happened that Sunday with the Kobe Bryant tragedy, and prayers and good thoughts to everyone who was affected by that personally, definitely the Bryant family and everyone else, and the Lakers organization and stuff. But it was hard for me to focus on that afterward, but I pushed through and was able to still find some enjoyment in the Royal Rumble as a whole. I appreciated that Shorty G, or Chad Gable, came out there and the pre-show and was dressed in purple and gold to pay tribute to Kobe Bryant, but I still felt some type of way about him losing his match against Sheamus. Though I understand Sheamus has just returned from his almost year-long injury, I'm very happy that he made his comeback. And he actually made his comeback. He did a comeback promo a little bit after, I think, during the Smackdown that was in my hometown of Birmingham, Alabama. So I was really happy to see him return, but I did feel some kind of way with, Shorty G coming back and wearing what he was wearing, and then he lost. But, that's life. He was probably booked to lose anyway, because when a wrestler returns, it's more than likely they're going to, go on a tear. So I'm happy for Sheamus in that tear. And I was also happy with the match that Andrade had against Humberto Carrillo, even though I was getting a little bit tired of them fighting. And then they fought the Monday afterward too. It was just kind of like, how many times are they going to fight? But every time they fight, it is pure athleticism as a whole. And I love watching Mexican wrestlers and throw it down in terms of the lucha style. So I never get bored with them in that aspect. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about lucha wrestling in the moment that they had this week as well. And another standout moment that I had that I really enjoyed during the Royal Rumble was Roman Reigns versus Baron Corbin. That match was all over that baseball field, all over Minute Maid Park. And it was one of the coolest things I had seen in a while, even though I found myself getting a little bit tired of watching them fight as well, because it seems like on every Smackdown, they're always fighting each other, throwing dog food in each other's faces and all that. But as a whole, I really enjoyed that match. They were all over the place. And there was a point where I thought where Baron Corbin was going to walk away with the win because, his buddies, Bobby Roode, I still call him Bobby Roode, I don't care, and Dolph Ziggler were helping him and whatnot, but then the Usos came to even up the odds, and Roman Reigns was able to beat him in the dugout, which is something I appreciated because I actually used to watch baseball a little bit, so I appreciated that so much. And I loved the Women's Royal Rumble match. I always loved the Women's Royal Rumble match. I am a women's wrestling fanatic. So almost anything, and I do say almost because I don't love everything that they do with the women's division, but basically a lot of the things that the women are doing, I tend to enjoy most of the time. And I've been a huge advocate for women's wrestling since they've started sort of putting it out there a whole lot more and letting the women be as athletic, if not more athletic than the men have. And I've been waiting for it my entire life. So to get to this point now where we're on our third Royal Rumble for the girls, it's just like, yes! So, so now, one of the things I enjoyed the most about this Royal Rumble was the fact that they included more NXT women. And they did in the second Royal Rumble, but I was definitely happy that they included it more since NXT is now on television with the rest of the shows. And to see Candice LeRae and Mercedes Martinez and definitely Bianca Belair and Shayna Baszler and Shotzi Blackheart and all these other amazing NXT girls get out there and show what they were made of was just absolutely fantastic. And I was definitely proud of seeing Bianca Belair tear it up the way that she was able to tear it up. It was fantastic. And she deserves every bit of praise that she's getting right now because she's just wonderful. She's like Samson. I love her. And I definitely thought that Shayna Baszler was going to walk away with the win because I felt that as a person, being able to watch her destroy everyone in NXT and be the two-time NXT Women's Champion and go on to WrestleMania to face whoever she was going to choose, her versus Becky would have been like fantastic to sort of carry on that storyline that they sort of insinuated at Survivor Series. Would have been great. And then Shayna versus Bayley would have been great too, because that again would have been a continuation of the Survivor Series match that they had. But they went with Charlotte, and I love Charlotte. I've actually met Charlotte. I respect her journey to the game, because at first she was saying, I respect everything about Charlotte Flair, everything she's done and everything they've allowed for her to do, because she's dependable and she's great and she's a workhorse. She's fantastic. But it just seems as if sometimes they give Charlotte so much, and there are so many other women that they could build up to earn so many opportunities that Charlotte has had so many times. So I'm not saying that it wasn't a good thing that she won, because it was a good thing that she won. But, if it had been Shayna, it would have been a new thing. But then again, with what they're doing with Charlotte now is pretty good. And I'm going to talk about that too. Now, I was feeling some type of way when Charlotte was like, oh, I'm going to say I'm going up against a champion. And, for her to go up against Bayley, which we've seen a million times for the Smackdown Women's Champion, would have been, and against her, against Becky would have been like, because we've seen that a billion times as well. Now, her and Becky, tore the house down. My favorite match that they ever did was the one that they did at Evolution. And it was a last woman standing match, and it was really incredible. But I just didn't want to necessarily see that again. So this past Monday, when Rhea Ripley came out there on Raw and said, why don't you fight me? I was like salivating, like, let's do this now. Like, come on, because Rhea did beat Charlotte on Smackdown during the whole Survivor Series program. So I was like, let's do this, like, come on. And Charlotte was going to make us wait and be like, woo, and kind of just walked off and didn't give us an answer. So I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm okay with that. And then if you also tie in her on Charlotte on Wednesday on NXT, which was cool to see her back over there with Rhea. And then of course, Bianca Belair. That was an amazing segment as well. Now, Charlotte's character, of course, is going to be this person like, no, this is between champions. Get out of the way, Bianca. Bianca wasn't having it. So I was just like, okay, fine. Bianca made her presence felt. And I also somewhat appreciated Rhea, taking up for her and saying that you're not going to disrespect the NXT women just because you're, who you are, which is the queen and all that. So I was happy that they were able to step up to her and say, it's Rhea versus Bianca first, and whoever wins that match at NXT TakeOver Portland, we'll see you, Charlotte, at WrestleMania. And I appreciate that. And Bianca, acting as crazy as she was, say, oh, I know she didn't just interrupt me and make it seem like she doesn't care about me. I know she didn't. I love Bianca Belair's attitude, and the reason why I love her attitude is because of the fact that, I'm also, a black woman, and I have seen a lot of that in my life, of women. Of course, all black women are definitely not the same. We're not monolithic, so all of us aren't as confrontational as Bianca Belair was acting, but to see her act that way, and be unapologetic about it just made me kind of laugh, and I enjoyed it because I've seen that so many times in my own life. So I'm just like, yes. And I just love Bianca Belair's personality, and she's a star, and Rhea's a star, and Charlotte is a star. She's becoming an icon. So they will all benefit from this program, and I'm ready for it. Now, also in terms of the women, we have Liv Morgan and her program with Lana. Liv and Lana started off fighting about the whole, Bobby Lashley, Lana segment, and that's been annoying a bit, but Liv was all like, you and I were lovers, but then they kind of drifted away from that, I guess, with everybody reacting the way that they did to it, which I understand wholeheartedly because, shock value and, her possibly being a lesbian and all of that, and it was just a lot going on social media with that. So I guess they're just drifting away from that whole love storyline and just, are fighting each other. And I love how Liv Morgan is showing more of her athleticism with that, and her personality is taking like a really great turn with it, and I'm happy for it. Now, Ruby Riott returning was a welcome change because I've missed her a whole lot, and I'm glad she's back wrestling. Now, her feuding against Liv is definitely very interesting, and I'm ready to see where that goes. But I'm concerned with them still having Lana in the picture, considering Liv has beat Lana about a good 2 times now on television. So if she's beat her this many times, then why is she still insinuating herself in this, possible feud between Liv and Ruby? So we'll see where that goes in the coming weeks. So yeah, I've really been enjoying that. And I'm trying to see. Also, this week on Smackdown with the women, you had the Fatal 4-Way match between Alexa Bliss, Naomi, who has returned, in a blaze of glory and glowing, and Dana Brooke and Carmella. Now, I love all of these women equally so very much. I love all of them and everything that they bring to the table. Watching Naomi lose made me feel some type of way because she came back, and then of course on social media she went viral for a lot of different reasons. There are a lot of casual fans who got back into her, definitely casual Black female fans who hadn't watched wrestling in years, got back into it because they saw her with her beautiful glowing outfit and her beautiful natural hair. And she went viral, and she brought lots of good publicity in terms of Black, female wrestlers back to the forefront. And with all that good publicity, and with her working as hard as she did to sort of start this feud between her and Bayley. I know last week her and Bayley got into a little bit of a tussle, and then they got into a tussle during this Fatal 4-Way match last night. But, with all of that momentum, why did they let her lose? Why did they book her to lose to Carmella? And I love Carmella, and everything that she brings to the table. And I understand that as of late, Carmella hasn't really been doing that much, or hasn't really been booked to do as much on television. But Carmella versus Bayley was something that I wasn't expecting. Now, I'm pretty sure they're going to set them up for Super Showdown now that the women, can have a more open space to fight in Saudi Arabia now. But I was ready to see Bayley and Naomi fight, but they're probably saving that for WrestleMania. I don't know. We'll see. But hey, I was a little bit disappointed in that, but I wasn't alone in it, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not going to completely give up on it, but we'll see. I'm glad Dana Brooke was in the match, but I want them to give her more to do. And I'm glad that Alexa Bliss was in the match a little bit, because I also feel like, as glad as I was that she was in the match, she has become a little bit long in the tooth as well in terms of championship reigns and everything else. She had a huge push. So I just want to see them give her a storyline that doesn't involve her going after a title. And the same thing for Dana Brooke as well. So yeah, I feel like there should be more of a mid-card build with the women. So there's that. Now, I've talked a whole lot about the women, so now I'm just going to go towards the men again. So last night, Bray Wyatt now has a feud with Goldberg for the Universal title, and Baron Corbin is still looking to fight with Roman Reigns, and you have The Miz and John Morrison starting their feud with The New Day. And then also with the men, you have the dominance of Drew McIntyre and a lot of different things. So I'm going to go into that later. So now I'm going to talk about Drew McIntyre. I'm very proud of him because Drew was this big guy who came up like a long time ago. It feels like a long time ago. But, and then he was with 3MB, and it felt like, he won an IC title, but they weren't taking him as seriously as they could have been, or maybe he wasn't taking himself as seriously. I believe he had some issues going on, and then he left and then worked incredibly hard to reinvent himself, reinvent his look, reinvent his athleticism and all of the above. So when he came back to NXT, was really pumped about it. I was like, okay, well, here's Drew McIntyre. Here he is doing, amazing things. He won the NXT championship. And then, he had a good run with it. Then he lost it to Andrade. And then he was bumped up to the main roster. And something that me and my dad did talk about was the fact that we felt like he should have gotten a chance at the Universal title or the World title before anybody else did, because we felt like he would definitely pose a threat against someone like Brock Lesnar. But they waited for a long time, and we were just sort of, just waiting and waiting and just, waiting. So there was that. But then once he won the Royal Rumble and eliminated Brock Lesnar the way he did, along with the assist to Ricochet, it was like, whoa, it was a huge pop in my house. I yelled. I was so happy for him. And then when he just went on a tear and started eliminating everybody, even though, there was Edge and his comeback, which I'm very excited about, Drew definitely deserved the win. And I was so glad that he won. So with that being said, he's going on a tear against all these different people, fighting all these different people on Raw, and they're making him look incredibly strong. So him versus Brock is definitely going to be an amazing opportunity for him, and I hope he wins. We'll see. And Ricochet versus Brock Lesnar, I feel like will be a good match, because as of late, Brock Lesnar has had really good matches with men who can be classified as heavyweights, but who move like cruiserweights, like AJ Styles and Finn Balor. So him versus Ricochet will probably be a really good match for Super Showdown. Now, I would love it if Ricochet did have a chance at the title, but, Brock Lesnar. So, yeah. So, we'll see what happens with that. And now, with Edge and his feud against Randy Orton, when Edge came back, I had seen a couple of dirt sheet places that were saying, oh, well, Edge is set to return, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I knew there was a high chance that Beth Phoenix was going to come back and participate in the Rumble, since she's done it before. And I always enjoy seeing her come back, Now, mind you, I would love to see her on a run, but then again, she's a commentator for NXT. So she did a phenomenal job in the Women's Royal Rumble. She got her head busted open and she kept going. I was just like, yeah. So to see Edge actually come back, I was so happy to see him come back. And I thought him and Randy were going to do the rated RKO thing and do the tag team thing and be happy and, be, happy OGs ready to go. But no, Randy just had to be the devious heel and had to fight him and rah, but and then Monday he didn't even explain, but then again the fans didn't even give him a chance to explain, because all they did was kept booing him. And it was so funny. And it just reminded me of that time when Roman Reigns came out after he beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania, and all they did was boo him, because the crowds after WrestleMania are always so hot, so they were just like, boo, boo. So Randy he looks like he's feeling remorseful about it, but then he's like, it's almost like he's saying, I had to do it. So yeah, we'll see where that goes. Now, I'm just really happy to see Edge back, because I actually witnessed his last match. Me and my father and my sister went to WrestleMania 27 in 2011 in Atlanta, and it was amazing. And I really and I saw him fight his last match. So, and then a week later he said he was retiring. So personally for me, seeing Edge, return after, all those years was just like, yay, praise God. Or any other higher being that you believe in. So yeah, that was really good. Now, to jump back to Smackdown. I'm jumping all over the place, guys. This is my first podcast. I'm sorry. To talk about The Miz and John Morrison versus The New Day. I'm going to talk about The New Day first and where they are now. I appreciate everything about them. I love everything that they do. A lot of cultural references in terms of Black culture that they makes me feel seen as a person. Just like this past Friday when Big E was talking about BET Uncut. which is a show that isn't even on anymore, and Richard Pryor levels of comedy and all of that. It just gives me life, because it's just like they speak to parts of, my life that, I always heard about, or actually, my parents, took part in, all of that. And it just makes me feel really good and seen inside. I miss Xavier, and them as tag team champions will never stop being amazing, because they will never ever stop putting everything that they have into this gimmick, which is basically themselves, and I appreciate that, and I love their podcast. I wish Kofi would go for the championship again, but they're not going in that direction, and it sort of disappointed me, the way Kofi was, kind of just tossed out during the Royal Rumble by Brock Lesnar, but whatever. Them as tag champions will never get old to me. They're dominant. They're amazing. So, hey, whatever. Now, The Miz and John Morrison, seeing them together again is kind of like a blast from the past here again, because I did see them when they were, dominant tag team or whatever, and The Miz was acting like a reality show star, and John Morrison was like, hoo ha, look at me, I'm the shaman of sexy. So, their segment with the dirt sheet, I almost had to remember what the dirt sheet even was, because it's been that long. And their parody of that movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, was hilarious, because I love that movie. I loved everything about that segment with Lance Storm and Papa Miz, which is what I call him, and John Laurinaitis was really good. It feels weird though, because on SmackDown, they keep talking about how The Miz and John Morrison are so dominant and how they've beaten the New Day, but The Miz and John Morrison haven't really fought in a tag team match against the New Day on television, as far as I can remember. It's mainly just been John Morrison fighting both the members of the New Day, and The Miz hasn't really, they've beaten them individually, but not as a tag team collectively, so it kind of makes no sense to me why they would have them to fight based off of individual victories. But I mean, hey, they're fighting, so we gotta deal with it. But I feel like it'll be okay. They're pretty entertaining together. I'm glad to see John Morrison back, but I'll be rooting for the New Day all the way through, because I love them. So there's that part. And Braun Strowman, I'm so excited that he won his first singles title, even though, he did kind of win that Greatest Royal Rumble title, but they never let him carry that on television. So, I mean, I guess it only counts in Saudi Arabia. But it was really cool to see him win the IC title the way that he did. It was cool. And to see him get so emotional about it was just like, you can tell it means something to him. Because all he's really ever won is tag titles and stuff like that. Even though that one time he won the tag titles with that 8-year-old child, was really cool. A lot of people, crapped on it, but I didn't care. Him and Nicholas were cute, so forget that. So, yeah, I was really happy for him. Shinsuke going for it again. I would really love to see Shinsuke do something else, because he's had that title for the longest time. He had the title when before they even changed the title over to the new design. I'm ready for Shinsuke to do something else besides being an IC title picture. Give him something new to do. I love Shinsuke. I've loved him ever since they brought him up to NXT. He's a legend in Japan. Have him do something else, something more. He deserves more. And I wish Sami Zayn could wrestle again. Mind you, him as a manager is pretty okay. But at the same time, I'm ready for Sammy to get back in the ring, because he's really good too, and he's never really had a run with a title at it either, so give him a chance. But there's that. Also, if you want to know who my favorite managers are, well, my favorite manager right now is Zelina Vega. I love her ever since she came when she was in NXT, and NXT actually came to Birmingham. I screamed, "I love you, Zelina," and she winked at me, so I love her. But anyway, that's another story for another day. I'll get into managers probably on another episode. We'll see. Now, I was really happy to see the Velveteen Dream on NXT Wednesday. fighting the Undisputed Era because they're the reason why he was injured in the first place. So, I was happy to see him. And the fact that his tights had Marina Shafir and his son, Marina Shafir, and Roderick Strong's son on there was just like, whoa, he's really trying to fight now. And I just love the Velveteen Dream because his entire style just reminds me of Prince, and I love Prince. So seeing him just sort of, embrace that character and make it what he's made it, it's just fantastic. And he's a star in the making too. I cannot wait till they possibly bring him up to the main roster. But even if they don't, they just keep him on NXT, that'll be cool too. So I'm definitely interested in that. And Adam Cole versus Tommaso Ciampa is going to be fantastic for the NXT title. So that's going to be great. And yeah, those are basically all my opinions of what I have, of all my opinions on what's going on in wrestling this week. Now, in terms of news, the one thing that stuck out to me in terms of wrestling news was Tainara Conti possibly having walked out on NXT. I hope that's not true because I love her and she's very talented in terms of her black belt background. And I would really hate it if she had walked out because of a disagreement with money, because she had amazing potential. So I don't know if that's true or not. I don't want to be the one to, say, oh, well, this is true because this is that and the third, because I want to get the facts first before I start speaking on things that aren't true. So I hope it's not true that she's left. I want to wait until she says something, which is something I believe we should all do in terms of everything, in terms of rumors. We should wait until the actual person that's involved in it says something about it. And if they don't, maybe we shouldn't worry about it. So I hope she didn't leave. Now, I want to thank you for, if you've stuck with me this entire time, thank you for listening to Hardy Wrestling. And hopefully I'll be able to make weekly episodes because I'm in the midst of a lot of changes in my own life, but hopefully I can make more episodes weekly with everything that'll go on, and hopefully they'll be a little bit more organized. But like I said, this is my first episode. I was jumping back and forth between topics, so hopefully next time I can be a little bit more organized. And if there's anything that I've missed, please tell me so. If you want to hear my opinions about certain things involving wrestling, WWE, or maybe AEW, please let me know. And also let me know if you feel like I should get into other wrestling shows like Ring of Honor, and, New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, tell me so I can have more content to discuss, So with that, I'll just say I hope you guys have a fantastic and blessed weekend and week. And I will see you guys, or basically give you guys a new episode probably next Friday or Saturday. But until then, enjoy your life, hug those who are close to you, love on them, hug on them, live your best life, make sure you're happy and doing what feeds your soul, and do you be the best you can be. All right, bye y'all.